All right, 22 elections continue. I got Gina Oster with me today. You guys may remember it was our first, so I'm super excited to talk to Gina again because it's all her fault. Everything that happened with this show started because of her. So we'll talk about that, among other things, rolling in once we get going here. We're Almost an Agreement. You can get us at almostanagreement@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to our... we have Instagram too now, but we don't do that much of that. Go to our website, almostanagreement.com. There I've got my job description sheet that I'm still working on. If you've got any ideas or corrections, please email them to that email I said earlier and help me fill that sheet out. And then we also have our 22 voter guide for county only right now. And that is everybody whose petitions went through and everybody who's officially on the ballot. If I have an interview with them, it has a link to it. And then I'm going to start filling in everybody's official campaign web pages on there as well. So it's a link. And then on that page as well, you have KGIS and Knox County Election Commission, so you can figure out which district you're in, where you go to vote, those kind of things. If you're registered, if you're not, you need to get on that too. But Gina Oster's in the house. We're going to talk about the primary for her as well as the general. And we might touch a little bit because I'm still so confused on this merit council thingy. But that's not what we're here for today, so we'll keep that short. So anyway, Almost Agreement with Gina Oster, everybody. Here we go. Gina, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
So good to see you.
It's good to see you, too.
I do. I blame everything about this podcast on you.
You know what? We need to encourage each other when we find something that somebody's passionate about. And you were passionate about this, and look what you're doing. You're doing really well.
I'm having a blast on it, and that's what, at least according to the IRS, the best this can be right now is a hobby. So I can't turn it into a business yet. I've got to start making money and paying taxes. But that's on the we could start with taxes, but we'll save that for a little later. All right, so you have been on the show before a couple times, but just for some of our new listeners or whatever, let's do a quick 7-minute history of of Gina Oster.
Okay, so I was raised in Knoxville, went to Carnes High School. My husband was raised in Knoxville, went to Farragut. We raised our boys here. They were all Carnes graduates. They all still live here. We've been married 32 years. We've got 3 sons. We've got a granddaughter and a new grandbaby boy on the way. I got involved in local politics the year before our oldest son, who will be 30 in June, started school at Cedar Bluff. Cedar Bluff at that time was a temporary building that had been built 30 years prior. So it was the temporary building. It was still there. We also had the open classroom concept over at the intermediate school. And so we just had a lot of issues going on. And the bathrooms were closed down 2 or 3 days a week because there was flooding issues and plumbing issues and all kinds of stuff. And so I decided to get involved the year before he went to school on PTA to get to know the teachers and the principals and all that stuff. Second year, jumped right in, feet in deep into the legislative. That's when I started getting really involved with our county commissioners, our state representatives, superintendent, the whole thing. And I would have a walkthrough once a month showing them the problems every single month in case you don't know what they are. Let me show you again. And I was kind of a thorn, in the side. So that big, beautiful school over at Cedar Bluff, I have to say that I worked extremely hard for us to be able to get that. Now, my kids did not benefit from that, but all the other kids at Cedar Bluff have benefited from it, and that was the whole goal, was to get that. The temporary building didn't even have a cafeteria, so the kids just brought their lunch back to their desk every day. And so it was, it was definitely needed. So that kind of took me into different avenues of what was happening in District 3. Actually, at that time, we were District 5, so we've been renumbered. And so I got to work with Frank Luthold, who was our county commissioner, awesome man. And Frank was one of those that you picked up the phone, you called him, he answered, and he got what needed to be done for you. And so I learned from him how to actually be a real good representative. Right. And so worked with Tim Burchett and Steve Buttrey and 3 superintendents that came through the school system. And so we kind of started that way and really got ourselves into the politics, the workings, learning how county commission worked, learning how the school board worked. And so that kind of had brought me full circle.
Right, because I think that's one of the interesting things that I'm learning. The more people I talk to doing the brief history of everybody is what their origin story is, what got them into doing it, because it always seems to be something. I want to say there's maybe 2 people in the 2.5 years doing the show now that I've talked to that are like, I've always been into politics. It's always been a part of my life. Most everybody else, it was just a normal person out here doing my day to day, and then I got involved because of this particular issue, and that got me into moving and understanding and further and deeper, and then it's like, well, I feel like I know what's going on, so maybe I'd be a good one to do this. So I guess the next following question is, why this seat and why now?
So, I ran for state rep 2 years ago.
I know. You had a cool interview with some new show back then. It was awesome.
It was. So I lost by 99. I'm not sure if it's harder to get walloped or lose by that little, but that's gone and done with, and we're done with that. But so I really was going to kind of go back to just doing what I do outside of office and working for our community and that kind of stuff. And I started getting people calling me saying, you need to run. Randy's not running again because he's term limited, and Randy and I've known each other for probably 20 years. And so I started thinking about it, and I thought, do I want to do this again? I want to do this again.
To be fair, and for me it was fascinating, and I loved it for the sake of the show and stuff like that, following the I always call it the Eddie Gina race, like following that whole thing as far as watching the system do what systems do.
Yeah.
Like getting to see some of these intricacies that we don't get to see every day.
Right.
And through that race. And I'm sure it was not as much fun for you as it was for me, but it was an interesting experience in understanding how the partisanship works within and like the local body and the state body and all the different parts and pieces moving together to do this government that we all live with and under, or whatever you want to call it. And so for me, it was super exciting and interesting. Totally understandable that I could see how you could be like, you know what, that was my run at that. I can retire in the political career because that was too much. I could totally see that for you.
I can say I was done, but the problem is I'm really not done. And I love my district, and we've been in our district for 28 years, and so I know my district well. And then COVID hit, and I started going to every county commission meeting. And then when they were on Zoom, I was watching it on Zoom and just kind of watching what was happening like everybody else was, not knowing what was going on and what direction to go to. It was almost changing day to day, if sometimes hour to hour. And I watched situations where people were having to go downtown. And I've told people this, you have to go downtown, you have to pay to park and fight traffic at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And most regular, quote, regular people don't really have that built into their day schedule because they've got kids and work and everything else, right? And so, but they're having to go down there talking to these representatives. And the one thing that I did learn from representatives in the past, and what I've always been pretty strict about when I'm a constituent of somebody, is I expect you to be extremely accessible to me. Right. And so I've learned that over the years, and that's one promise that I know that I can make and keep. There are a lot that I will not make and keep, but ones that I will make and keep is my people in this district are going to know who I am and how to get in touch with me. Right. I mean, right now when I go to your door on the push card I give you, it's got my cell phone number. I want you to call me. You see me in the grocery store and you have a problem, you stop me and talk to me. I want them to know I'm in the district listening to them. I will come to them and then take the information that I need. Right. So,
because I think one of the things that, and especially through the pandemic, and I mean, again, that was the beginnings of this for me, trying to figure out how this whole thing works, and then we throw the pandemic on top of it. I think that's one of the things that Hugh Nystrom, who was my District 4 rep prior to Kyle Ward, was really good about. And I appreciated that about it. And then that was before I was really, really starting to pay attention. But I think one of the things that I found most frustrating in this process, especially watching meetings, talking to people and stuff like that, is I think we as a public don't know who does what.
Right.
That's why I'm trying to build my job description speeds, because I think, I think Larson said it best like a year and a half ago when I had him on. He's like, number one job of a commissioner is a switchboard operator. Mm-hmm. It's not that I have the authority to do X, Y, or Z, but I know who does. And when you call me asking about it, I can get you to the right parties and people. And I think that is an important aspect to have in a commissioner. And I like that. But at the same time, I don't know how we fix some of the core issue of the lack of engagement we have as a community, and a better understanding from the community where what bodies are doing what. Because,
Right.
I mean, I've already seen it in this race. I've already had a couple commissioners as well as some school board members talking about stuff that are outside of the realm of the
Right.
job. And it's one of those things that I knew it was going to happen. Like, we made jokes about it going into it. It's like, I guarantee you I'm going to have a commissioner come in here and talk about this. And I know for a fact it's not part of the job.
Right.
But it's one of those, I get the politics side of it. It gets the basic side. It gets people out to vote because that's an issue that's important to them. But I think it's more important that we start really drawing these lines on where the authority lies on certain things, because I think a lot of people think school board has more than it can on certain things. And that the simple one that I knew was going to happen, that has happened now officially, is the critical race theory argument. And it's a big story right now. And it's one of those things a lot of people are talking about. It's not even really in the school board's hands,
Right.
with the way we're structured.
Right.
And people don't know that. And I think going back to the health department thing in the pandemic issue, like, it's still unclear to me that the commission was allowed to do what they did.
Right.
I mean, it happened, and I guess nobody's done the whole legal process of undoing whatever it is, because my understanding is the health department was the state body, and that's something that a Manus or a Massey or a Johnson or one of those members of our local government, per se, would be the ones to go out there and do that work at the state level, not us here. And so I guess all that rambling for the question is, like, I think accessibility is the number one to help with that. But, like, you're out there door knocking or something like that. Somebody asks you about something that you know is not in commission. How do you answer those questions?
So that I'm really honest and tell them that's not in the wheelhouse of a commissioner, and that would either be your state rep or whoever that may be. I think my job is to go out to the knocking on the doors that I do daily and say, this is what this job requires of me, and this is what you can expect of me. Now, outside of that realm, I can put you in touch with who you need to be in touch with, but I'm not going to it benefits me or no one if I'm telling you that I can do something that I can't do.
Right.
It just doesn't. So when you
I'd push back a little bit on that, but I get what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't because in the long run,
right.
when I get elected, if they call me and then they say, well, you said you could do that, and I'll be like, oh, well, I can't. I'm going to be honest with you up front, and then I'm going to figure out a way to work with you.
Right.
So you asked me about this seat, and let me go back to that for a minute.
Sure,
so
please.
I look at it now, and I think everything happens for a reason. So with the state race, and when the opportunity for commission came up, I thought, you know what, commission really is a lot more my personality, because I'm the one that if somebody's having a problem with their road or with their whatever in their neighborhood, I would rather be one-on-one with them and put them in touch with who I can put them in touch with. And I feel like now that I've watched it a little bit more, I kind of feel like state, you're more removed from your district as you are a county commissioner. So my wheelhouse really is that interpersonal. That's more me.
And I think one of the things about state too, in watching it, is there's so much in such a short window.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing.
Yeah.
Except for the last 2 years, because we've had a special session or two
right.
every year for the last couple of years. But there's so much that squeezes into, I mean, we're halfway through session already at state level stuff. And there's literally over 1,000 bills moving around. And like, I don't like that as a constituent, because there's stuff that I don't like, and there's stuff that I'm reaching out to Manus and Massey and being like, hey guys, what's going on with this thing? What's going on over here? And
it's
just
slow
moving,
it down,
and then
but
it's committee, and then it's and then boom, and then July, all of a sudden we have this new set of laws in the books, and we're reeling to try to catch up. And I like, and I like to kind of be rude to the other media in town or whatever, and it's like, we get that one segment in the end of June that WBR does, and here's the new laws on the books. And then they've got the one every December. Here's what they're going to be talking about in session. And none of it is ever really that accurate. And it's always a very condensed, the most popular things that people are talking about.
Right.
But there's so many little things that go on that we don't get a chance to see.
So many little things. When you're talking about being active, for the voters to be active, and that's one thing I really kind of want. My focus is, it's kind of you and me make District 3. And so I'm kind of the quarterback.
That's a really good line.
They're the team, and I want everybody to feel like they're part of this team. So I've committed that if everybody wants to give me their email address, whoever wants me to have it, then they're going to get a monthly newsletter of this is what's going on commission. Right. Because you shouldn't find out on Friday what's going on commission that could be really important to you, and then Monday afternoon, you've got to be downtown, right? So if you want me to come to HOA meetings, you want me to come to PTA, you want me to just show up with some of your neighbors in your house, you let me know, because that's what you have elected me. You have hired me to do the job. I need to let you know what's going on in the job so you can be part of it. So I think if you include the people, that's one thing that'll make them excited. I think also we get a little overwhelmed with politics because it can just be a lot really fast and just kind of can grow into this humongous tumbleweed. And people who are just trying to live their daily lives, it's a little overwhelming. And then, you watch the national news and you see all the ugliness and you see all the corrupt and you see all that kind of stuff. And I think eventually we just kind of start shutting ourselves down. And we're just like, I just don't want to be a part of that.
I mean, because one of my big pushes, and we'll get to this in the 5-question thing later, is one of the, I'm not a big fan of the school board being partisan races. I personally am not a big fan of partisan race, period. I don't think it's a net good for the public, but that's a separate argument and we'll talk about that at some point, I'm sure. But, because even if I'm a Democrat in Knoxville right now that wants Democratic people elected, I'm looking at the national news and I know it's going to be hard for me to sell an independent on Democrats right now because what's going on nationally. It's that has nothing to do with the local Democrats and what they're trying to do and stuff like that. But it is part of the way that we as a populace think. We see, problems with the Biden campaign or the Biden presidency and stuff like that. And that rolls into, who's running here? I'm blanking out on it. There's 10,000 Democrats on this list. Let me pull one out of my head here. So Scott Cameron running for Register of Deeds. Right. Because he puts a D after his name, I'm going to think about Joe Biden and I'm going to think about the gridlock that is DC right now when I go to vote. And it's well, how does that help me? Yeah. And I think that's an issue that we have because because of how much media focuses on national stuff going on. Right. Because even in our local media, you have a 30-minute show with 7.5 minutes of commercials, a good solid 6 or 7 minutes on the sports section, and then a bunch of weather, and then that leaves 7 minutes. Right. That's why 6 of those 7 minutes are national news. That's why when you wanted to do this, to me, it was really important because if you have maybe 1 or 2 outlets talking about local politics, that doesn't really give people a good taste of what's going on. So if you're actually able to get the people in here and talk to them one-on-one so people can actually listen to them and kind of get to know their personality a little bit and that kind of stuff, that's a huge benefit because what politics really affects us at our front door is local politics. And we've all seen that over the last 2 years. And I think that's where more people have come out to run for offices that maybe wouldn't had in the past because of what's happened the last couple of years. And it's kind of geared people up. And I think it's gotten people recognizing that local politics is so important. I'll expand on that. I think Trump did that a little bit, but in and of himself in that presidential run. I think started that, and then I think pandemic and health and everything all this stuff has kind of just rolled into it. Has kept that fever going, for lack of a better word. And I agree with you 100% on that. And that's I hope that is an overall net good thing if we can get out of this you're the bad guy conversation all the time. It's you have the wrong letter after your name, whatever you say is wrong. Right. But if we can get out of that but keep the engagement, I think we have a greater future ahead of us as a result. So I always like to get onto the what are some top items for you, when you're out there door knocking, what are the obviously accessibility is a big one for you, but what are your other kind of top elevator pitch things when you're talking to people as far as when I get to commission, this is what's going to happen? Yeah, so definitely the meetings, that kind of stuff, the accessibility. Also, obviously, we know that development and infrastructure is huge right now. It's going to be huge for a while. Now, I'm a realtor, so I kind of bring a different skill set to commission at this point, which I think is probably going to be a good thing. Understanding zoning, understanding density, understanding the units, understanding the infrastructure that needs to go into it. So I plan on showing up with the developers, any of the meetings they want me to be at with any of the people that are affected in the neighborhoods in the area, and talk to them. Also go out and look at the property because otherwise if you don't do that, if you're just looking at it on the map or on the grid that they give you, you're not really getting a sense of what else is around there, right? So that's hugely important. And so that's a major issue. Now, Cedar Bluff right now, we're going through major flooding issues, which we have had for over 30 years. So in case anybody doesn't know, Cedar Bluff is actually built on a cave. I did not know that. Yeah. So needless to say, infrastructure built on a cave
causes some problems.
Right.
And so...
Well, shouldn't that just be where all the water goes?
That should be. Actually, it's all going there on Dutchtown around some of our neighbors.
Right.
And so we're dealing with that right now, and I think that we're going in the right direction, which I'm really happy about. And so there's a lot of that. We picked up a new precinct in District 3 in 70W, which is part of Ball Camp, and which is going to be part of that Shod Road expansion, which is going to be wonderful and move traffic so much better when it actually gets done. But
right.
you
Plus,
know how
you don't
that
have
goes.
to, you don't have to take 40 to get east-west anymore. You
Exactly.
can actually cut, especially if you're north of 40 and you're trying to get over to Halls or Powell from Hardin Valley. It's really, you just got to go to 40 and right now, at least.
Right now. And so that's going to really help, and that's going to be great. And so there's a lot of expansion going on there. So District 3's changed a little bit, and District 3's changed quite a few times. Like I said, it used to be District 5. And so, but we made it through and we were okay. So there's a lot of, really, I think, infrastructure and development is huge. The amount of people we have moving into Knoxville right now weekly is crazy.
Right.
It's absolutely insane. And so,
I mean, the idea that the supply has been so low and the pricing, I mean, the housing pricing has been going so high and the demand continues to grow, that's the crazy part to me. Like, I understand it's like, hey, let's all move to Knoxville. It's a great place to live.
Yeah.
And then I come down and look 6 months after this ball started rolling, and it's like, I can't afford to live that. I can't afford to buy a house there. But no, it's here and now. It's like, it's still just every single house is, I mean, what's the longest you've had a house on the market for that you're selling?
Let's see. So I listed one Friday. I could have sold it Friday 20 times. I ended up with 25 offers. We accepted it last night.
Right.
So 2 days.
Right. That's the market we're in right now, and it continues, and it's been that way for 2+ years. That extreme, and it's still pretty big before that.
Yeah, and from what NAR's telling us, the National Association of Realtors, we don't look like that we're probably going to be out of this for another 3-4 years.
Right.
It's telling us that the growth in our economy is continuing to grow. It's getting stronger because businesses are wanting to come here. But if you have businesses that want to come here, you've got to have houses that people can live in, and you have to have schools, and you have to have entertainment,
and houses that people can afford to live in,
houses
for the
that people
jobs
can
that are
afford.
getting created. Right.
Exactly. And our developers and our builders are in a tough spot right now because supplies are behind, and so they can't get their houses done as quick as they may have been able to get them done. And every week they check their balance sheet, and 15% has gone up on garage doors and everything else. Where does that get passed on to? It gets passed on to the consumer. The consumers moving here are willing to pay that because we're still cheaper than where they're coming from.
Right.
And so we have to figure out, we've got to be able to get the inventory up so we can at least level these prices off some, so there can be a little bit more affordability, because there's so many, a lot of my buyers are my first time buyers,
right.
And it breaks my heart every time we lose a house.
AC on the main show, he's been, they started really seriously house shopping before they got pregnant, and she turned 16 months this week or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's been 2 solid years of them looking, and it's just not.
And they're worn out. They're exhausted.
Yeah.
Agents are exhausted. I mean, we're all tired. You know?
But you're getting paid. It's a whole different thing. You're allowed to get exhausted when you're getting paid. It's those of us.
Well, not when you're writing 14 offers and nothing's getting accepted. You're not getting paid.
I would hate to be a buying agent, but a selling agent right now is where it's
A
at.
buyer's agent is really, really tough. I had to make 24 phone calls last night, and I personally do that because I feel like that's the right thing to do. And every time they answered, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, because I'm usually on the other end of it, getting thanks,
Yeah.
So, but we've got to be able to work on that. But I think it's an exciting time. We're definitely getting, our property taxes are definitely going to be increased of what we're taking in as far as that goes. The businesses that are coming here, I mean, we're Knox County, and this is one thing that excites me with commission, because I feel like we're really on the cusp of something really cool.
Metro?
You know how I feel about that. But I do feel like that we're on something really cool, and I want to be a part of that. Right. I want to be out there representing.
I mean, I think we talked about it this weekend on the big show. It's like traditionally, if you look across the country and stuff like that, cities like Knoxville, who are a major intersection of 2 interstates, are usually a lot bigger than Knoxville is. There's not a lot of cities that have an intersection like we have in interstates that are as small as we are. Like we are the anomaly in this, and apparently we're catching up real fast.
Yeah, and we really are catching up really fast.
And so again, like, I mean, I'm more of a free market kind of thing. You want to buy 100 acres and put 500 houses on it and have at it. But where I get a little bit more iffy on it personally, it's like, well, the infrastructure side of that is like, what responsibility do we as Knox County have to prepare infrastructure for upcomings, as opposed to letting that develop, get in place, let the actual new development get on the tax rolls and let their tax money pay for their expansion in infrastructure instead of it coming out of the current budget. That's one of the things that I go back and forth on. I don't have a really stance on it, but it's one of those, to me, it's like, well, you want to move to Knoxville, you got a sweet neighborhood, you might have a little country road to get to work.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's your choice when you buy the house.
Right.
I don't feel like we, as the rest of the community, need to make it an easy trip for you to get to work. That's not. I don't know. And that's one of those things about this growth that I don't know how we handle.
It's gotten kind of hard. It's almost like we were talking last night, me and an agent, gotten hard to figure out how to price a house. It's like we're just throwing a spitball at the wall and being like, not sure what's going to happen here.
And then plus 25%.
Best of luck. I kind of feel like sometimes we feel that way with infrastructure, but you have to have the development to be able to put the infrastructure in. You can't put the infrastructure in and then put the development in, because it doesn't make any sense to do it that way. And so you've got to be able to have that. We actually had a developer a couple of weeks ago who is going to be putting in some infrastructure, and it was wonderful to see them do that. And you've got a lot of these developers that are willing to do a lot, and I don't think sometimes people understand that, because possibly they don't understand how TIFs work, and they don't understand how the developer comes in and he works and that kind of stuff.
I mean, I think one specifically that has been kind of floating around currently is when a developer does infrastructure, what are their obligations in that? Is it just throw some tar down and call it a road, or is there, because as I'm learning more about it, is that, if a developer gets approved to do the infrastructure, they have to follow the county engineering. They
have to follow a very strict guideline for that to even be able to get approved. And so their money is tied up for quite a while until that is all done, and until it's approved. So I think people look sometimes and say they're the big bad wolf, but I'm like, no, they're actually providing a service that we have to have, guys, because we have all these people moving here and we don't have anywhere to put them right now.
Right.
And we would rather have more single family dwellings as opposed to more and more and more apartments, right? Because
I mean, I guess at a county level, I could get behind that as being a kind of standard statement. But is that, I mean, because that's one of the things, again, with joking on the metro thing, but not really, but just we could very easily, with the history, and like we were talking about the intersections, interstates and stuff like that, we could very easily be a 750 million resident county. Mm-hmm. But that's not going to be all, like, we can't do that with all single family homes. You can't,
and you're going to end up having to have more dense dwellings also. You see some of that downtown in the city, where that's kind of what the people want in that area, because they want to be more city, they want to be more located to everything down there. County is a little bit different, and people typically want the single family homes in the developed neighborhoods, or that kind of stuff. And so you kind of have to city and the county are two different animals sometimes, the way I look at it, as far as real estate and development and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so, but yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm hoping to be able to bring to commission also, to help people understand kind of on the development side, because I'm completely free market and property rights. So if the little farmer in Carnes needs to sell his property for $1 million because he wants to retire and he's not working that farm anymore, he has every right to do that.
Right.
But it will affect other people in that community, because they're used to seeing 100 acres of farmland. Now, when I grew up in Carnes, that's all it was.
Right. But if you want the farm to stay next door, then buy the farm when he sells it.
So that's kind of it's kind of what you have to. And this is a hard discussion to have, because somebody from Knoxville, we kind of have a hard time sometimes accepting the growth and the change, because we remember what it was like driving down Hardin Valley and all you saw was beautiful farmland, and in Carnes and Halls and Gibbs and these other areas that were more the rural areas. Gibbs is about to have an explosive growth out there, and it's going to have to, because West is, we're tight,
Right.
and it's got to go north, and it's beautiful country out there.
Yeah, when you go over there, District 8, and blow District 8 up, because they're like District 8's like half the county.
Different, and
it's huge.
they're getting ready to have a big, I think, a development come out there, and so it's hard. It's hard, I think, for us who's been here for years. But I try to tell people this too. I raised my kids here. I educated my kids here. I want my kids to stay here near me,
right,
with my grandbabies. To be able to do that, we have to bring more businesses here. We have to bring more people here. We have to bring more development here. We have to be able to do that, or our kids are going to have to leave Knoxville to go someplace else to be able to find a job.
Right.
Do you want them to do that?
Right.
No, not necessarily.
I think too, if country life is your life, great.
Yeah.
Sell your 5 acres for way more than it's worth right now, and then go move out to Rowan County or something like that, and you'll have tons of space.
Yeah.
You know, it's just it's not. But I agree. Knox County had, for a long time, this little tweener thing going on. There was in between a big city and a rural town, and I think that ship has sailed. We don't get to turn back the clock on that.
We don't, but being from Knoxville, it's something that I also don't want us to lose our identity, and I don't want us to lose the kind of people that we are.
The city already screwed that up with that stupid remodel of the Strip. That was so terrible. I hated that one.
That was hard when you used to drive down the Strip, and that's how, what you used to do
ugly
when you were a teenager.
Right, but it was ugly what it was, but it was ugly Knoxville. It wasn't ugly every single college town in the country.
Exactly, and now it does.
And now it's just like that. Yeah. It's just generic looking.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't like it.
Yeah.
But,
Change is hard. It's necessary, but it's hard, and I want to be respectful. I want people to understand that I totally get, because like I said, I do remember running those roads and running those country roads, and that to me is sweet memories.
I remember when I was in high school, we went downtown for 4th of July show, and the girl I was dating at the time, we ended up going over the river and just kind of driving around South Knoxville. And
right.
I was nowhere.
Yeah, I was out.
I was out here. I had the mall and all that kind of stuff, because I went to Bearden, and so we were in the happening part of town normally, but like, let's go see what's down here. And it was like, what is this place?
Yeah.
We went back in time or something like that.
So yeah, but I want to be also respectful for the growth that we need to have, and be able to keep our kids here, because why don't we want to keep our kids here?
Right.
You know,
I mean, if they want to stay here, If they want to stay, I want them to be able to stay.
Yep, me
but
too.
If they want to run away from me because they don't like me, that's fine. I guess I gotta live
well,
with that.
the one that's got the grandbabies aren't going anywhere. I'm holding them hostage. So.
That's what my parents did to my brother, but that's a whole separate thing. Okay, so again, I agree, and I think that's going back to the beginning where we were talking about what are the actual job duties things, and I think a lot of people don't understand exactly what commission can and can't do. I think that's the nail on the head of probably the number one, most impactful, most day-to-day importance that commission does. Is we're talking land use, we're talking how to manage the growth we're going to have.
Yep.
And I had Kip Frazier in, and a couple other people have talked about it too, but she was apparently part of the team that built this 30-year plan that we're working on right now. Have you seen that?
I have seen that, and I like that we have a 30-year plan, because I think everybody needs to have a plan. I mean, we have it for our families typically, and we have, for businesses have it and that kind of stuff. Government definitely needs to have it. It'll have to be, I think, visited every few years, right, because the way that we're growing is
Right. Growth slows down, then we got to change it a little bit,
Yeah, or this area is doing a little bit more and that area is doing a little bit more. No, I think the 30-year plan is awesome.
Okay. I think it's a good thing to have, too, and I think I'd like to have it. I haven't got a chance to look over it myself, but I'd like to have it really well broken down and to make it very accessible to the normal person to really understand what we're talking about, because it's like sector planning and zoning and all this stuff. So it tends to be foreign language to a normal person, and so I'm hopeful that is part of the process as they start putting that out and implementing the parts and pieces of that. Okay, so planning, development, accessibility. What's next on your top 3 or 4 things list?
Those are really my top. Those are my top ones that were really. I think that's probably going to be the big thing in the next couple of years. You're going to get a lot of COVID money released to the county, and I think from what I'm being told and what I understand, there's quite a few strings attached from the federal government of what we can do and what we can't do with it.
Right. I was talking to, I can't remember, I think I was talking to Matt Shears about it, and I'm curious with the infrastructure money that's coming in too. Because again, with this transparency and trying to understand what's going on thing is like, when we spend these big block monies on infrastructure projects, is that Knox County money, or is that federal money?
Right.
I think it's for us, the voters. I think that's one of the things that gets lost in the shuffle. It's just all the money. Because again, I make fun of the budgets all the time. It's like we get this COVID money and it has all these strings attached and it can only do certain things, but we count that as income in the budget and expenditure in the budget. But it's like, well, we could not have that in the budget at all because it just went. It's a very linear thing we could leave over to the side, but it's just. I don't know. For me, at least, it makes it harder to follow a budget. Yeah. When you have all these weird little ins and outs that are very specific in what they're doing. Right. And so again, I guess we're probably rolling into budget season. I need to get Caldwell in here and talk some 2023 budget, 22-23 season year budget with him because. That's going to be all done and said with before this election. But there's a lot going on. Yeah, and
there is. And he's really good. And he'll be able to really explain that. I would like
he's got a voice for radio.
He does. He's awesome. I would like to see what would be really cool is to be able to do a breakdown. So Knox County gets however many millions of dollars. And this was earmarked and this was sent to A, B, C, and D. Right. And this is where it went. Right. And people would understand that.
Continuing the idea, too, is there's North Shore Drive is a state road. Yeah. And so stuff that goes on there comes out of state budgets and not out of local budgets. And it's like, well, I'm not going to give you, I might, because I don't know any better, give you credit for getting North Shore fixed for me. Right. But, I think that's one of those things that for we, the layperson, is so hard to keep up with.
It is.
Infrastructure being the top of it, because especially here, because we have interstate. We have all these state roads, we have city roads, we have county roads, and some of them are all three.
And some of them are all three on one.
Yeah, Kingston Pike is all of them. At some point.
And I think that's where people get really overwhelmed too, because they're like, "This is too much. I don't want to deal with all this." Right. So. I think that would be really cool to say this is the money that came from COVID money and this is what it had to be used for. And I want people to be able to understand it is being told what we can do with it. So it's not like Mayor Jacobs gets millions of dollars and then he just starts delving it out to districts. It's just not that way. And so, but I think if they had an understanding of this road's being fixed or this infrastructure or this,
Right, because that's where I'm at. I'm trying to get some school board in and help me out with the ESSER funds, the COVID money that they're getting. Right. Because last I talked about it, it was supposed to go into effect this semester, and I haven't heard anything through the school about any of the new things available, any of the adjustments that they're making as a result of this new money. Because we're out of pocket paying a tutor right now. It's not a problem. But one of the things that was discussed that there may be some help for people getting tutors, or there will be tutors that are officially associated with your school that you can use instead of using an outside one, stuff like that.
Right.
And so I remember when it was all hot and heavy and the budget was talked about, it was a big conversation. But now that it's supposed to be implemented, it's just kind of fallen off the radar.
Well, and now they've moved on to 2 or 3 different.
Well, right. We have a whole other argument to argue about, which again, that's another one that's this mask argument at the feet of school board. I technically, I guess it started as school board's fault, but this is a federal judge now. This is, which is a whole other set of weirdness because who do you complain to?
Exactly.
Within this federal judge doing it. But at the end of the day, school board meetings are getting overwhelmed with a topic that they can't touch. And that's that's trying to make sure the engaged public actually knows what's happening so that they know how to go about their engagement more effectively. I would find special. So I do want to steal a little bit of your campaign time because I still don't quite understand what the mayor and council does.
With everybody else. I mean, ask away
because it's there's a couple different things at play that have been stories about it, but the general idea is that you're like an arbitration body, and so that whether it's a sheriff's officer with a complaint on another sheriff's officer or it's a individual from the community with a complaint on the sheriff's office, it comes to the mayor's council.
No, so the employees have the right to have a grievance in front of the merit council, and that is if they are moved in the office, or if they're fired, or if they're put on leave, or if they're suspended. Okay,
so it's exclusively
just for the employees,
and it only comes into effect when it's an adjustment to their employment status.
Correct.
Okay, so if I were a sheriff's officer and the person they partner me up with, he's rude and I don't like him, that doesn't go there. It only goes there if I get moved off of to a different thing inside the sheriff. Okay.
Correct.
See, these are the things.
Yep. So this actually, the merit system was actually started 50 years ago, because what used to happen is a new sheriff would come in. If people didn't work for that sheriff or they were for another sheriff, then they would get moved or fired or whatever the situation was. It was politics. So that came into effect to keep the employees protected from political activity.
Right.
Okay. And so over the period of time, with different laws and different bylaws and different rules, then the merit system now also, we do testing for the officers. So when they come in, we set up the testing for the mental and for the physical. We do the psychological. Also, if they're testing for a promotion, so when something opens up, then you end up having to post that, and that has to be posted, so your employees get the first chance of that. And so they go through tests with us, and then we handle the grievances. So let's say an officer gets moved to, he's a detective, and he gets moved to the correction facility, and I'm just using this as an example, and he said there's something wasn't right about that, and I don't have any complaints against me, and this was personal or this was political or whatever. He has to go through a pretty rigorous process to be able to get to us. He can't just file it and he comes directly to us. There is a process he has to go through. His supervisor, then he has to go to the sheriff, then they can come over to us. So it's a process where he gets to us. And then we have the hearing, and this officer can either have his own attorney, or he can represent himself, and the sheriff will have his attorney, which is typically the law department.
Right, which is a separate story.
That's a whole different story.
Because that's another part of the story that I don't quite understand.
Exactly.
But that's not part of what the Merit Council does, so that's not important to what we're talking about.
And so then this officer will come in front of us, and the 3 council members will decide if he was moved correctly or if there was a problem, and then we will make the decision on what needs to be done.
Right, and and you're appointed through commission.
Correct.
And so it's essentially, on some level, at least for the employees of Knox County, whom the commission oversees that budget, this is an oversight for protecting those employees from the politics part of running for sheriff.
Correct.
Okay. See, that's what I need to know. Because that makes total sense to me.
It makes total sense.
Because I get, like, we were talking the other night about just general budget stuff, and it's like, you know, if I was to go after Caldwell about, you know, whatever, trying to understand budgets, he works for Mayor Jacobs. Mm-hmm. So he might be careful to be kinder to Mayor Jacobs than might be the reality, because that's his boss, and it's potentially, if Mayor Jacobs doesn't keep the seat, somebody else could come in and replace him with somebody different. And so it puts those weird little elements in play that aren't important, well, shouldn't be important to the job, but become part of the job because of the politics. And so, it makes total sense to me.
So on this Merit Council, the 3 of us that sit on the Merit Council, we don't get paid anything. I mean, this is a free community member. Right. So
what I'm getting out of all this is that you enjoy the stress of it a little bit.
The last year, not so much,
because that last confirmation was not the nicest go around of appointments that I'd seen.
Yeah, you think? You know, I do this because it truly is for the officers of Knox County, and I have a humongous heart for our law enforcement. So it's a protection that they're due, and it's deserved.
Just, like, it almost seems ridiculous with especially right now with the employment issues that the sheriff's office is having in getting, training, and maintaining officers, that some little political nonsense would get in the way of keeping a good officer on. But it makes, I get it. I'm just saying, like, it seems crazy with this current situation, especially, that we would have problems with the need for this.
It's been rather frustrating to watch and to be a part of, obviously. And there's a lot of misinformation that's printed by certain sources, and that I read it and I just cringe. So I'm like, that's not even right. And you just want to scream. But I don't feel that it is appropriate to play any grievance or any employee's business out for public knowledge until they are able to have their grievance heard.
Right.
You know, I mean, you wouldn't want your personal information out until you were able to go through the process that you're due for the employment that you have and for that protection.
Right.
And not that we're trying to keep a secret. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't think you play out a grievance in the court of public opinion. You go through the right process. So when I read things and I hear things, I just grit my teeth and just move on because I'm like, that's just not professional for me to do.
Oh, yeah, it's just like anything else in politics and government. There's a ton of nuance going on that most of us can't be bothered to take. I mean, it's just I need the headline version of it, and that's going to have to be enough for me because I can't do all of these things in the depth that is required to really understand them. And I mean, that's just it's sadly the reality. And because for a period of time that was the goal when I was trying to do these shows, was to try to like break it down and simplify it. And the more I did it, the more I was like, it's not an option. I can't. You know, the best I can do is get to know people and let my random wanderings through trying to understand this be an assist to other people doing the same.
Nobody understands merit, and actually until, and I would say, and this isn't a slam on anybody on commission right now, but most of them, and they would tell you, really didn't understand what merit did because it was kind of one of those entities over here that there was never really any issues or anything going on, so it was just they kind of take care of themselves, right? And then a lot of stuff started, and it just kind of got a little big, and so they've learned a lot about what merit does. But I try to tell people, I'm going to simplify the version for you. We're here to protect our officers and to get the best officers in Knox County that we can get. Right. We don't tell the sheriff who he can hire, and we don't tell him who he can fire, and we don't tell him who he can move as long as everything's being done in the correct process under merit rules. Right. And that's just how that goes.
Right. I mean, because the way the state works with the relationship with the sheriff's office, it's a weird, like in the hierarchy of things in the governments that we live under locally, the sheriff's office sits in a weird spot. It's not like a straight line from, the mayor and the commission and then the sheriff's under that. It's the mayor and then the sheriff's over here to the left or right, whatever you want to do. But the sheriff's off to the side. And so we do have a little bit of budgetary oversight and we have a little bit of merit oversight. Right. But for the most part, the sheriff's kind of a free body to do as the sheriff pleases. And so I totally get the idea of having something to
just an oversight
to at least pull out some of that politics part, because I mean this is going to be a fun one. This one started a year and a half ago. I mean, hell, this started when Jimmy retired because he termed out, and so this one's going to be a fun one. This one is a good example to me on why partisanship gets weird, because we don't have a Democrat or an independent running for sheriff. Right. If you're a Democrat in Knoxville and you're going to pull a Democratic primary because you have primaries that are important to you, you don't get to vote for sheriff. That sucks. I mean, it's just like I can get behind having the partisan part of the primary and that only Republicans get to vote for Republicans and Democrats get to vote for Democrats or whatever. But we need to carve out some sort of rule where we have a specific, like this sheriff's race, that it continues on to the general. Like, right. I think it is an abomination, for lack of a better word, that there are people in Knoxville who are active voters who will not get to vote for sheriff because they care about which one of the mayor candidates our Democrats are going to get through. Yeah. It's a weird thing that we have in place. And it's not rare. It's not new. Right. We've got trustees, the same thing. One of the clerks is the same thing. A bunch of the judges are the same thing. We have a weird set just because of the weirdness that is the 22 election with some of those kind of deals. Well, neat. Any other topics that I'm missing that are important to you that maybe I'm glossing over?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we've talked about what's definitely important to me. Like I say, I want District 3 voters to know who their representative is, and I want them to know that I'm working for them and working on their team. And that actually, one night I was laying in bed and it was like 2:00 in the morning, and I woke up and I'm like, you plus me equals a successful District 3. Like, I wasn't even thinking about anything. And I went, exactly, because it's the whole thing. It's not just the representative. Like, it's the whole package, and we can all work together to like get the ball down the field. Right. And so I'm excited about it. I don't know. I've got a heart and I've got a spirit for serving, and I know that I'm going into it with the right way to do it. And so I'm looking forward to expanding Knox County and being the representative for District 3 and working hard for them.
Awesome. Okay, so we have the 5 questions. We've already covered some of them, but we're going to do them. We're going to do them in the shortened version now. Okay. So one is past, present, future of politics for you? So, we've already talked about it. We know you ran for District 18. Other than that run in 2020, what else? Has there been any other previous political runs for you?
School board, about 12 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a school board run. Did you run that? I don't. That was before I paid attention. Okay. So school board, then District 18, then now we're at current. And then where do we go from here? Is this? I mean, obviously you were well invested, and you have what did you say? The heart and desire to continue to serve the community in a political fashion moving forward. Like,
right.
Is this commission seat step one into either going back into a state run or something higher here in county?
I've had a lot of people ask me that, and I said I want to serve 2 terms on commission, and I want to know that I made a difference in my district, and I'll probably just take it to the House, because at that point I would be 60. So I'd be like, I'm good.
She's lying, you guys. It's only 45. 8 years from now, it's only 45 for her. Don't let her lie.
I wish. I don't have any. No, I mean, I can honestly sit here right now and say, for 2 terms on commission, and I would be really happy about that if I did everything that I wanted to get done.
Yeah, because I think one of those things that I think a lot of people forget or didn't know is the way we have segmented term limits. They're not necessarily total term limits. It's just consecutive.
Yeah.
So you could be 2, take one off, and do 2 more.
I mean, you could. And like I say now, I mean, nobody knows what our future is 8 years down the road. But I'm not one of those people that's going to get into a seat and then I actually have my eye on another seat.
Right.
I'm going to get in there, and actually what I plan on doing is probably pulling back on real estate just a smidge after I get elected, and really take my time and delve into commission full time. And typically that's more of a part-time, I know.
Right.
But
I think that's a conversation that needs to be had about the way this, and maybe it's just pandemic leftovers, and maybe it'll settle down once we get post-pandemic. But, I think there is an interesting argument to be had about the pay structure and time requirements for commission on whether they should stay the same or increase. Because, I mean, one of the things I had thought about, I can't remember who I was talking about, it's like, it kind of excludes a certain set of people from being able to run for commission with how little the pay is.
Right.
Like, you have to have some money aside. You have to have something else going on.
Yeah.
And whether it's a want to spend more time on it or the ability to spend more time on it because you have to have another job.
Right.
Does bring, I don't know, it's a conversation.
I mean, it is a conversation.
I'd like to pay you guys nothing, but we got as close as we can with what we got right now.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, you're not doing it, nobody's doing it for the money right now, and it's not about that, but I feel like for me to be the best commissioner I can, because I've been doing all my research, but I've done this for years. I've been at county commission meetings, and I know how it works, but it's going to be different sitting in that seat, right? And so it's where, to me, I'm going to make the biggest impact and be the best representative I can if I can devote my time to really delving in and being that commissioner full time for a while. Right. And then when you learn it a little bit, then you can understand it. But I feel like that I just would be doing a disservice to my constituents if I didn't really just jump in with both feet.
Right. And if you do it right, then the realtor game's going to slow down anyway. So I mean, just all right. So question 2 is, what's your favorite ice cream?
Chocolate.
Chocolate. Good, easy answer. I like it. Number 3, what's your favorite place to eat here on top?
Oh my gosh.
That one sneaks up on a lot of people. They're like,
oh, there's
15,
so many.
25.
There's absolutely so many places. Oh my gosh. Okay, so obviously Chick-fil-A is not that. I mean, that's fair. That's on the top of my list. This is not an endorsement of
Triplet in District 7, but that's fine.
No, it's not. It's not. I have a Chick-fil-A in District 3. Oh my gosh, Chewy's is I love for Mexican, and oh my goodness, what's the other one? And I'm drawing a complete blank. Firebirds. Firebirds has kind of become like our new place. It's right across from the mall, right beside Walk On.
That's like right here in front of my house. I don't know what it is.
It's
on my list. Like, I've been working a whole list of everybody's answers. I'm like, I need to go check that place out. That's
so good.
Right. It isn't about getting to know you. It's about getting to know where I need to go to.
And I'm so excited about Giovanni's, the pizza place that's coming in. Used to be where Bricks is, right down from the mall, across from
I thought it was Jabroni's.
Chili's.
I totally misread that. That's totally.
It very well could be. It could be my East Tennessee accent, but I'm really looking forward to them.
That's a weird spot. That's one of those weird little, like, the actual physical location.
Yeah.
It's just one of those. It's like nothing seems to go there well.
I know. I hope it does.
Yeah.
I hope it does. So yeah, but Firebirds is awesome, and the manager there is so cool.
On that, I saw today that it looks like the Highway Patrol office is moving.
Really?
Yeah. Like the signs off the building, they don't have the get nailed car out back anymore.
Oh my gosh, that's been there for 100 years.
I didn't realize that it was
I didn't realize it either.
I just happened to drive by it today, and like the actual, like, the words are pulled off the building, like the signs off the building.
That's bizarre.
So yeah, I'll have to look
probably
into
another restaurant will be going there.
Probably. At least it's not. At least I took that hotel down. That thing was junk. Anyway,
yes, it was.
All right, so number 4, we talked about this a little bit, and this is where my opinion stands on it. But do you feel like partisanship is a value to the voter? Like that it helps me to make a decision by having partisan races for everything we got going on?
I do. I am a partisan person because I do feel like that. I don't agree with anybody that says they're not partisan, because I just think that you're partisan on everything, whether it be in church or whether it be in business or whether it be in politics. We all bring a set of values and beliefs to the table, and those are either going to fall conservative or more liberal. But for me as a voter, I want to be able to see who do you align more with in my values and my belief system. So that's just kind of where I'm at.
And again, one of the fun little isms that I'm interested on is I've heard some rumors going around. There's going to be some challenges to bona fides going around in this right now.
I'm sure there will, and I think 2 years ago that probably.
I mean, I don't know.
Started it all.
I'll give you the credit. I don't know. I don't know how much it was paid attention to before. You're probably right, but it's an interesting. I get what you're saying, because I think that there aren't necessarily always two sides to each issue, but you usually come in with your own take, whatever that take is. And I'll agree a little bit that the two major parties tend to cover most of the bases in that, but I don't know. Anyway, it's your answer, not mine. Number 5 is to continue on the partisan kind of chat. I want you to tell me about a Democrat that you like and respect and feel like does good work. It could be local, state, or federal.
Courtney Durrett is on commission. I could not respect her anymore. We work well together. We will work well together on commission. She is she's a Democrat, and people that know both of us, they're like, it's a funny relationship. And but you know what? We don't talk about things that we can't change, and we get along great. And so I respect her immensely, and it's probably not easy to be one of 2 Democrats that sit on the super majority Republican commission, and she handles herself extremely well.
Excellent. Good answer. All right, so plug it up. What do you got? Website, email, phone number,
Facebook,
whatever you want to put up.
Gina Oster, County Commission, District 3, GINAOSTER.
Check.
And that's on the Facebook, and then you can go to my website, Gina Oster for County Commission, and I'm going to put my phone number out there too, because it's all over everything. 865-382-7799. Call me if you have any questions and concerns, and I'm happy to answer them for you.
Awesome. All right, so I will put the website and the Facebook in the show notes so people can link straight to that, so they don't have to try to spell it correctly. I'll do my best to spell it correctly. You're not the hardest name to spell that I've had so far, but I'm good at figuring out the wrong way to spell things. So I appreciate you coming on. It's so good to see you. And again, just for the sake of throwing that out there, I'm not sitting here today doing you're probably the 25th interview of this cycle if you hadn't done the first one back in 2020. So
well, that makes me feel good.
I truly appreciate that, because there's a whole part of me that's like, well, why would anybody bother? And it's like, you did. So it's like, well, you did. So everybody else must be suckers too. So I'm going to chase them all down and make them talk to me.
I'm leading the pack.
That's right.
I'm leading the pack. I appreciate you having me here and letting me talk about it. And anybody out there in District 3, I would be honored to have your vote.
Awesome. We'll get back in touch post-primary. So
perfect.
Here we go. Gina Oster, everybody. Like I said, it's all her fault. We're here because she came the first time. So if you want to get mad at me, get mad at her. That's that part. We're almost in agreement at gmail.com. You can get us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. We kind of poke around on Instagram a little bit. If you want to follow us there as well, that'd be great. The best thing we can do is get us on our almostinagreement.com. I've got my job description sheet, which is the best I can figure out so far about what each position is actually allowed to do and not allowed to do inside the job title that we're electing them to do. And then I also have the Voter Guide 22, which is going to go down the complete list of all the county reps so far, who's running for what seat, links to a show if I've done with them, links to their own website or Facebook page if they have one, as well as links to KGIS and Knox County Election Commission, so you can make sure you know which district you're voting in, what your precinct and where your voting locations are. If there's early voting options, you can also go get your absentee ballot and stuff registration and all that kind of crap from there. Go to your favorite podcast provider, get us there. Please like, subscribe, or follow whatever the podcast provider does, because the more you guys follow us, the more easily it is for everybody else to find us when they're looking for us. And then the best and most important form of advertising is tell your friends about us, and get a hold of us there. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.